Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile, and I'm your host. And today I'm interviewing Jarek Owczarek, a co-founder of Contractbook, the software company that enables small and medium-sized businesses to manage their entire life cycle of their contracts in a single, fully automated flow. And recently they joined forces with Scrive, an e-sign market leader. And it's exciting to see how they can win the market together. And in today's episode, we discuss Jarek's entrepreneurial journey, the importance of understanding customer needs, and the impact of technology on product development. We explore the challenges of building a company, the significance of co-founders, and the role of mentorship in navigating the startup ecosystem. Jarek shares insights on merging companies and cultures, emphasizing the need for a strong customer journey and the importance of being obsessed with users. So if you want to learn more about the product, about entrepreneurship, let's dive in and explore together. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox, and today with me I have Jarek from Contractbook, and we are about to dive into entrepreneurial founder journey. And yeah, Jarek, welcome to Perception Paradox. Finally, we made it.
Thank you so much. It took us a bit of time to finally meet here and talk about all the things that are happening and has happened. There's a lot.
Absolutely, and I'm grateful. Well, it's always the best time is now, so we are now meeting for a conversation about your founder's journey. And what struck me, we got connected through a mutual friend of ours when I was recording a podcast in your office. And he mentioned to me, Jarek is an entrepreneur, doer, problem solver, etc. Like literally the picture of the underdog entrepreneur. So my question to you would be, to kick off the conversation, how did entrepreneurship come into your life?
Since the very beginning of my career, I always wanted to have a product. Since I think maybe like high school, there was something in me that wanted to create something on my own. And I always thought, honestly, that this is going to be a physical product. But during high school already, I figured out that I'm pretty good with computers. And that led to studying multimedia design and communication, coming to Denmark, where I got to know people that make me believe that actually maybe it's not the physical products, but it is more the digital products that I'm going to be creating in the future. Since the days during my studies, I've always cooked something on the side and tried to build something from scratch on my own. And for me, this was very much connected to building a product. There was not really much entrepreneurship or business connected to this. And with time, I understood that building a product is actually like building a business. And if you want the product and if you want to solve people's problems, you need distribution, you need actually you need demand. You actually have to create a quality product that will solve something for someone. And this gives them even either more time, more money, both maybe even, to really see the hard work that you're putting into building something in real life, and also create maybe financial freedom for yourself and people that you surround yourself with. That became probably a bit of a later one.
Talking about people you surround yourself, every entrepreneurial journey kind of rarely exists without people around you. Usually they are co-founders. Well, with AI right now, we have a big shift with the way we build companies and create products. But if we look back when you started, right, having a co-founder was not only the big requirement from a venture capital fund, but also would fill the different roles to grow, test, and build the business. When did the co-founders come into your product building and testing journey, and how did you find them?
Yeah, it seems to me like most of the co-founder stories are coincidence stories. And it is a coincidence story for me as well. The first co-founder that I found was during my studies. I studied with a guy that came to me and said, hey, I have this friend of a friend of my brother that is building this company, and they would love me to come and do a freelance project designing the interface. I thought it would be cool if we together go and meet them and talk about the project. So we did. Turns out this was one of my co-founders, Nils, at Contractbook that was building that company back then. And it was something completely else. It was a preference-based city guide. And that's how we met there. We had our first company back then together. We got to know each other a little bit better and formed a partnership and co-founded that city guide, which then later on led to us opening a agency together. And we started, instead of doing just a product for ourselves, also serving other companies with, back then, simple websites, mobile applications. We could put our hands into anything that we could. And during that time, we met our third co-founder, Victor, and he came as well. Again, complete coincidence. He came to us as he knew a friend of a friend again, and came to us and asked, "Hey, I am studying and I need to do an internship, and I know you have an agency. Could I do an internship at your company?" And we said, okay. And we actually gave him the project that we worked on before, the city guide, that was kind of fading away a little bit. And we said, listen, this is yours. If you can resurrect this company, you're going to be the CEO of this company. And he worked so hard on making it work that we kind of saw, wow, okay, we're now opening this new venture, Contractbook. We would love to have somebody as hardworking on board. And so that's how we also gave him the chance to join the founding team. And he in fact got a contract that said that if you close the first 50 customers, you're going to get a co-founder status, and he did.
Wow. That's very inspiring. So it seems like you've been through this journey on Contractbook together for a long time, right? And even started even before that. What are the key, not characteristics, perhaps values that led you so far and that you stick together? Because obviously, while you're building the company, there are also conflicts that are coming along the way. You need to make many uncomfortable decisions as well about the growth, people management, everything. So what do you think made you stick together? How did you manage to solve conflicts and have difficult conversations?
I think a common goal was a big part of it. And it was a common goal of building something that will redefine the way people work, while building a team that is going to enjoy working together, building a community of people that are joined by that common goal, and also having that ambition of building a team and an environment where when people look back at that time that they've been at Contractbook, they will proudly say that they've been a part of the journey and they had the best career days of their life.
Mm-hmm.
This was a big driving force behind the things that got us together and that helped us resolve conflict in many ways.
You grew quite exponentially, right? You also got some funding, etc. Is there anything you would have done different while building the company from scratch?
Many things. Where do we start?
Let's say the beginning.
We've been very fortunate with the timing. Contractbook is a contract management platform that allows you to create, collaborate, sign, and act, and later post-signature have all the contracts in one place. And we had our period of struggle we started working on 2015, around 2015 on the company, and the problem that we saw in our own agency back then and also in the network, and quickly realized that we were not alone with this problem. And so that led to committing to building the product and struggles to get the company off the ground, get the first customers, really get to a point where we have enough traction that we can also attract bigger investors. Until first inflection point, GDPR kicked in. Mm-hmm. And people started realizing that, wait, suddenly we have to have DPAs with all our vendors, and our customers actually have to have DPAs with us as well. And when we are their vendors, that was a big growth point. But also COVID then meant we can't really meet in person and sign a contract. We need to invest in tools that allow us to continue business, and that really helped us as well in the growth. And in 2019, we raised with Gradient Ventures. We then raised a year after Series A with Bessemer Ventures, and a couple of months after, we actually had an investment preemptively Series B round with Tiger Global, which meant really a lot of opportunities to grow as fast as possible, which we did take. And among many lessons that are hidden in that journey, a couple of major ones are that perseverance and being ready for the long run and not giving up is probably the major one. And something that I think separates the successful founders from those that just do it halfway. If you mean it, you need to do it, and you need to commit and overcommit and accept that this is not going to be easy. Not getting a salary the first couple of years. Like I didn't get a salary for 2 years when I committed to this and worked as a bartender nights and weekends to pay my bills. But in the end, I think what made us successful was the timing. There's a bit of luck in all of this and those inflection points, but also we would never get to that timing if we wouldn't stick to it. And I think this is one of the biggest lessons there is.
And how do you see the current landscape of product building since you started this whole entrepreneurial journey? We see a lot of now no-code technologies really escalating and helping us to test really fast, to see if the market is there, etc. But also I'm noticing this unconscious building. Oh, let's just build for the sake of building because I want to solve my problem, but not really looking underneath. What are the trends and changes are you foreseeing, and also what are you applying in the current, maybe even product development stage in your company?
Yeah, you pointed this out yourself. You were, as an entrepreneur, very dependent on co-founders if you were not technical. I think this is very different today. The speed at which you can get from 0 to 1 is uncomparable. Before Contractbook, we transformed the agency to something that we called Digital Product Studio. But in the end, we got tired of working for somebody else and being hands to somebody else's brain. And we started investing also into companies, taking shares and acting as a co-founder. We had a business model that took shares and invested a bit of money into the companies, and at the same time provided the technical and product expertise into getting the companies off the ground. And often what we've experienced was people coming to us with ideas and believing that building a product was the first thing that they needed to do. And it really is not the case. And it wasn't and still isn't. Idea is nothing without you understanding the problems that you're trying to solve and how big of a desire the people that experience the problem have to resolve it. How often does the problem appear, and how you're planning to solve that problem just comes after. And often you realize quickly that some of the problems that could be solved with a spreadsheet and just, human work instead of trying to build a product and automate things if you would do it without that maybe technical co-founder or your own ability to build the product. And I think this is very much similar today. Today, however, we have the tools that will help us maybe already verify if our idea really has the potential of being something more than just an idea by using the existing models and products like ChatGPT or Gemini to verify that. And later on to build the products and the prototypes that are needed in order to put something in front of your target audience and start verifying if this is actually something that resonates with that target group. So products like Lovable really have changed for the better on this landscape. And during the weekend, if you really dedicate the time, you can build something that you can put in front of users and quickly get validation if that is really something that you should be focusing on. It's a completely different story to build something scalable and get to a point where hopefully you get traction, and hopefully then you can start thinking about how do I make this so that it doesn't crash, it's secure, it's trustworthy. Those are the things that you can then start thinking about. Getting from 0 to 1 and getting in front of your potential users, potential customers, nowadays is incomparably fast to what it was 10 years ago.
It's wild, even when you were sharing about the city mapping, right? Even right now, just with a bit of a good prompt and brief with some other platforms, Lovable, you will get basically perhaps a big part of what you've been working on because of such a reach of the different data points. And
very much.
So how does this whole technology change that you have witnessed when it comes to product development, right? That we're really optimizing also our processes with artificial intelligence. How did you see that shifting in Contractbook as an organization, as a company that has an actual product?
So there's something in me that that makes me feel that we are only scratching the surface of how big of an impact this is going to have. I think the old habits die hard, and there is something about people feeling comfortable with the way of working. And as much as I would wish that we would adjust our product process already today, I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. But when cracked, those companies that cracked that process and insert AI into their product process will really skyrocket, or maybe skyrocket is the wrong thing to say, will leave the competition in the dust, because their ability to ship and iterate fast is really going to outpace everyone else. How can this be done really? Like, let's just take a regular process that I think many organizations can relate to. So today, or maybe the traditional way of looking at building a product or even shipping some improvements to an existing product would be that, okay, you analyze the problems that you might have in the product, you analyze the friction points the users have, you analyze the gaps that you have with maybe your competitors, you analyze the technology that is available to be used in order to solve the existing problems better, you map the jobs to be done that you need to focus on. And there are multiple ways of kind of anchoring your starting point for defining basically what you want to achieve. But when doing that, you basically do the product management work in order to understand the problem super well and then understand potentially how they can be solved. And as soon as you do that, you start concept developing and building prototypes or that are meant then to de-risk the value creation. So ideally, you look at the problems and the solutions that you have built, and you go and put it in front of users and try to look for indications that would make you confident that, yes, this is actually going to be valuable. So as soon as you have that, you feel like, okay, we've done something here that we have de-risked is going to be value creating. Then you have to de-risk as part of it also the usability. Is it valuable, but also is it easy to use? So you, again, build prototypes, show this in front of the users and see if they are actually capable of figuring out how the solution works and if they can complete the journey from A to Z without any hiccups. And if there are iterations that you need to continue doing, you do that on the prototypes because it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest in engineering to do that. And then you also de-risk the feasibility with the engineers, meaning you look at, okay, is this possible to be built? You hopefully do all these three things simultaneously as you go along. And then as soon as you've de-risked these three things, you start the iterations to software develop the solution that you had. More or less, this is in one or the other shape or form the way companies build products. Today, that path between, hey, I want to de-risk value creation, usability, and feasibility, and putting it in front of a customer has shrinked to the point where this process that we just described can easily take weeks, if not months, sometimes, depending on how big of a problem you're trying to tackle. But you could probably, if you're fast, you could have done this, start the engineering work within 2-3 weeks, and then the engineering work could take up to 6 weeks. Today, with the available technology, you can simply just do the concept developing, designing, and prototyping within 2 days and put it in front of users if you have the distribution channel, and have basically the results within a week and be able to say, hey, does this work or not? The problem that I see that I still haven't seen a solution to is going from getting the verification that it's feasible, usable, and valuable to, hey, can we push this now to production? And can we actually scale this and make this solution in a way that we can utilize all the hard work that we've done within that past week to then ship something to production when we actually have the confidence to do that? I have not seen yet anyone crack this, but the moment you crack that, I think this is just a completely different pace of work and releasing products that are moving really, really fast.
Totally. That's going to be a completely different ball game, basically. Talking about building a company, you chose this big vision to build fast growth, venture-backed company at the early journey of Contractbook. What made you to look into that direction, right? Because when you start the company and developing it, you can go so many different directions. Bootstrapping, smaller businesses, right? Or with a big vision, unicorn vision, oh, we're going to conquer the world. What made you choose to go big or go home direction?
I don't really think that it was so thought through.
You're just like, okay, it's just traction, we're going, and let's try what's gonna
Honestly,
bring.
it's not even that. It's like, it would be cool to build something, and then you start building it, and then you figure out, okay, we could do more if we would have money. Hey, where can we get money? We can get money here, 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 this way, this way, this way. What do we need in order to get money? We need this and this and this and this. Okay, let's try to get there. And meaning, okay, let's get some sort of traction. Then you struggle for half a year saying, oh, then getting all the no's from people, from angels to VCs saying, yeah, dude, you come back. Oh, it's maybe come back in half a year if you do this, 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 and this. And I think you try to survive in the beginning. You don't like, I think first time founders especially think just, okay, it would be cool to build this. Let's see what's on the other side of the fence. Of course, today I would probably approach this very differently, but I don't think that there was like, an exit strategy and a funding strategy to get to this specific point.
I love it. Yeah, go ahead. No, it seems like you are guys just so obsessed with building the product that you just found different tools and means and strategies how to get there and how to get funding to keep it up and going and growing.
And honestly, if I would give anyone advice, do that. Like, don't make enough room for yourself to be obsessed with the product and obsessed with your users, what they are saying, what they are experiencing, what the problems have, and be obsessed with that, because at the pace that now companies can iterate as well, this is what's going to set you apart. Anyone can come around from behind, but if you build a moat because you figured out, because you've understood the domain that you're within so much that it's going to take somebody else months to even catch up, this is where your uniqueness is going to come from. It's not going to come from you having an idea that something is going to work. It's actually the hard work and the obsession about building something super usable and super valuable, and a bit of luck as well there. A bit of timing is all you need. Sounds so silly to say it because it's a real struggle.
Yeah, I can imagine. But also execution, right? We keep hearing so many great ideas around, oh, I had this idea, I had that idea, but where is the execution? Where is the testing of the users, of the potential audience who is dealing with that problem? So a lot of us stay in that idea stage and falling in love with the idea rather than actually the problem itself. And then it does not even move the needle.
Totally.
But it seems that you guys were obsessed with your product, with the customer base and the problem area, because it seems like you have experienced that yourself while having an agency and it became a pain point. But through all those years, right, of your founder journey, I mean, I would assume that there might have been difficult times where you could have faced the wall or founder identity crisis, where, let's say, you just, I don't know, something doesn't work out or you're going through difficult moments with a company. So my question would be, how was that for you, and how did you deal as a founder with those tough times? Because we can see huge stats that the burnout in the startup scene rates are huge. The demand, the pressure is, especially if you raise money, it's also kind of can be very intimidating in a way that you are responsible for your company, for employees, and accountability for external stakeholders. How did you deal with the tough times?
In those tough times, I often asked myself, why do I do this? And when crisis came, it was, is it the fight or flight reaction to the stress? I don't have one thing that helped me cope with those moments of doubt. It was a multitude of things over the years. If I think about those moments, it's a connection between focusing on the right things. It's really soul searching as well, why you do this, and reminding yourself, why did you start do it in the first place? And I think if that foundation, especially around why, is shaky, I think it's going to be very tough to go through those hard moments. But if that is in place and it helps, that doesn't mean that it's going to solve everything. You might have a clear why, but there might be obstacles on the way that will just, keep on making the journey feel like a struggle instead of pleasure. It's realizing that you're potentially not alone and surrounding yourself with people, like-minded people with a similar ambition that can act as the sounding board or even the support that you need during those tough times. In many cases, often having two co-founders meant that we experienced crisis at different moments. And when one was feeling down and when one had doubts, we tried to lift each other and support each other. Sometimes the crisis and the friction came from within the founders themselves. And sometimes, the amount of co-founders mattered as well. It wasn't just one co-founder or two co-founders, three co-founders. I think there is certain dynamics that inherently will shape depending on the amount of co-founders you have. And I find three co-founders as something that actually worked well for us because the worst that can happen is that you have somebody in the middle that maybe joins and sides with another. And if you manage to actually shift that dynamic, you will basically start doing circles in understanding and caring for each other. I think one-on-one, like having another co-founder is also pretty good. I think as soon as you get above 3, it might start to be tough because you then have like this equal 2 versus 2 if the dynamic shifts to that, and I think then it might be difficult to align. I found 3 as a good number. So what we've done is quite a few things that kept us aligned. It's talking about goals. It's trying to understand the next milestone and driving towards that milestone. It's having that social time as well that made us bond beyond just work. We, for a long time, founder meetings every week, Tuesday breakfast, where we would just show up and just talk about everything and nothing. And that kept us also together. I think it starts to change as soon as you start growing. And we've been fortunate to grow pretty fast and hire a lot of people and grow the organization and the operation. And in these situations, it's often very important that you keep on looking into what brings us together so that you don't flow away from each other and start doing your own thing because now you see that it's important there. I think those common goals can keep you really going, and really staying together is super important and valuable in those moments as well.
Nice. So talking about valuable moments and growing the company, well, building a company or overall life I see as a playground, right? That you design it and that you basically play through different stages. So what still drives you when it comes to entrepreneurship, and that your why, that curiosity, that you show up every day for yourself, for the people, and for your also customers, because it's been a long ride.
Yeah, it's been a long ride, and I've been fortunate as a founder to play different roles in the company, from being responsible for engineering, product managers, designers, to later also transition myself into more commercial role and being responsible for customer success that carried the responsibility of renewal and expansion. So really, some might say account management actually, and focusing fully on, at some point, only on customer success and account management, to then coming back to product and realizing that I'm a builder. And what I find pleasure in is actually trying to solve the puzzle of problems and playing detective on how this can be solved until you actually figure out how it's solved. And that gives you the gratification of, okay, now we get to build it and see it in the hands of the people that we talked to that described the problems. I think this is a big driver for me. And I get a lot of gratification from seeing that you actually succeed with the things that you build. Learning as well along the way. So making circles, like being a product leader for this many years, but growing to an organization that is, you start with a couple of engineers and later on you have 6 teams with a big roadmap that is working on multiple products at the same time. So later on, scale down and actually have, again, 2-3 products or 2-3 product teams, and understanding how you refocus and relive some of the moments with the learnings that you have gathered over the years is also something that keeps me going. Like being able to almost rewatch the series, like you can think of, you probably have your favorite series, and sometimes you just watch that series years after you've watched it the first time, and suddenly you start seeing elements and details that you've never paid attention to, or because the perspective you have changed so much that you start seeing the hidden messages in these series. And I feel like this is similar to building products with the experience that you have, how the landscape has changed, how the way of working have changed, how the perspective you have on the customers, on the users, the knowledge you have about them, how this changed, and how you can actually make it better.
Talking about product, you mentioned you at some point had quite an extensive team, then again you narrowed down the focus. How long does it take to understand if you're really solving the customer's problem, right? What I've noticed from product building, that very often in the engineering team we get kind of a bit obsessed. Oh, we should do this addition, we should upgrade with this product feature, etc. And we have this roadmap that not necessarily aligns with customer needs. And then you keep building and you realize you went completely sidewalk. In your experience, what you've been working on, what's your timeline of the process approaching that product perhaps direction phase when you already have a core product and you're building up around?
So the sooner you're in front of users and the sooner you are data-driven and customer-driven, the better for you. But as soon as you can do that, but then you're going to just have a bunch of competing priorities, and you will have to choose, because there's going to be, hopefully so many problems that you could solve that it's actually the things that you say no to that will define your success. But that really requires you to really be close to the customers and the users and try to see this not necessarily from a narrowed down funnel vision perspective, but lift yourself up into even the customer journey perspective of understanding how did they end up using our product anyway in the first place? Did they sign up? Why did they sign up? Did they go through some sort of product-led growth funnel that we've set up, that we wanted them to try the product before they even signed up? And then after they signed up, what they are trying to do, what's stopping them from doing what they need to do, and picking up those leading indicators that will tell you that, okay, they moved to that next stage. So in our case, let me describe this so that it's not just theory. So the platform allows you to create contracts, among other things. And we've set up actually a CEO go-to-market play that we rank on contract templates. So if you're looking for an employment contract and you Google employment contract, we're gonna come up very high and give you a template. But that template, in the moment that you're looking for it, is probably something that you're just interested in getting a PDF or a doc, like a Microsoft Word document. But we try to capture your attention already there and say, hey, you probably want to create this, and later on you will need to sign it. So with a click, you can actually open this in the editor without leaving the browser, change whatever you need, and then ship that actually and send it for signature. And so in that funnel, we realized that, okay, we actually have a lot of things that could be better in order to give the customer the value even before they buy. And we've chosen some leading indicators that were connected to that funnel to see if are we actually making progress towards them having an easy time to create those contracts and prepare them for signature. That was the very narrow focus. But when we lifted ourselves, we said, you know what? This is part of our big strategy. We want a product that allows our customers to be able to easily create contracts from scratch. And there are so many ways that this can happen. But we know that within just the editor, there are so many things that could be better. So if we actually make the first time users that even don't have the intention of using the editor use it and actually make it better experience than the experience they are today having within Word, we probably have a chance for that experience to also fit all the other customers that are being onboarded, that just bought Contractbook and are being onboarded, or all the employees in the company that bought Contractbook that need to start using Contractbook to create contracts as well. Within just this journey, we suddenly figured out that, okay, we can focus on these things and track the amount of contracts that were created and actually sent for signature. And this was our leading indicator for that funnel. But later on, that became an indication as well that this is something totally relatable for everyone else that is creating contracts in that journey. And so by choosing that and then zooming out and thinking about the customer journey and thinking, okay, so this is how they end up in the product and this is the context, this is the job to be done that they want to have. They want to get a template that they can fill out and most likely either share with somebody else or send it for signature as fast as possible. You can then tap into those different problems and observe users and try to figure out their problems through qualitative or quantitative research, directly talking to them and saying, hey, how was the experience? Or trying to derive some data from heat maps and where do they abandon and how many people abandon the process on what stage, and try to basically connect the two and figure out the problems that you want to prioritize that will have the highest impact on the leading indicator. Because if you move the leading indicator, it's not going to be the revenue that you get from free users. It's going to be, you want them to experience that this first aha moment. And when you do that, you know that the path to them buying is a lot closer than, or at least you're closer to getting them to buy than you were before they even experienced the aha moment. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, brilliant. Very great, I would say, wrap up and share of your vision and steps how we can get closer to the customer and learn how they can actually become our loyal users. So talking about this vision that you were referring and structure, you have recently had a merge with Scrive, right? Scrive,
Correct.
am I pronouncing it correctly,
Yes.
Jarek? Okay, so would you be open to share a bit more? How did this strategic step happen? And how do you see it will elevate your game as a company and as a collective?
Yeah. Our ambition was always to be the leading provider of contract management. We've been fortunate enough to lead the way, especially with contract automation at some point in the category, but we've made quite a few missteps in terms of our strategy. And one of the bigger ones is the assumption that, okay, we want to build one product for all your contracts. Really, the problem was your organization have probably contracts everywhere. They are scattered and nobody knows really where the contracts are, what they should use when they need to create a contract, which Word template should they use, etc. And we wanted to build this all-in-one system that would kind of like, maybe you can relate to a process when you started a company and you needed to send the first invoice and you were like, oh, I need to send an invoice. But you figured out actually there is an entire accounting system that will take care of my entire accounting. So I just buy a system, and the system itself helps you actually have better accounting. we wanted to build something similar with contracts. And so when you bought Contractbook, you felt like, oh, my contracts are under control. Since the very beginning, we thought that digital signature was something fundamental to contracts, but it was something that long term is going to get cheaper and cheaper, and something that with time will become a commodity and people will not be willing to pay for it. It's like a little bit with phone subscriptions. You paid per SMS, and at some point they started giving you basically like unlimited SMS and MMS and calls even because you paid for a subscription. This was similar way of thinking that we had. So meaning, hey, let's, instead of trying to charge per signature, let's offer a subscription-based pricing and just give the signatures for free, unlimited, included. And we thought that this was the way for us to actually capture the market share faster. We were wrong. People today, and that will continue over the next years, are willing to pay for digital signature. That's one. Second, we didn't really double down on creating an amazing digital signature. We thought, yeah, there's going to be a unification and there's a certain standard that is just going to be accepted. Let's just focus on where the real value creation is, saving time during creation and making it super easy to find contracts and act on the data within them, setting up reminders and doing whatever needs to be done in order to fulfill the obligations within the contract. And we always saw the signature as the necessary thing to basically make the two things connect together. Again, we were wrong. Digital signature is something that every company needs. Every company doesn't need optimization of the creation, and if the volume of contract is not big enough, you also are okay with contracts just being stored in Dropbox. Digital signature was the central piece. And after multiple attempts of trying to make it work with the business model and changing the business models, we realized that we need to double down on signature, and we need to go to market with signature as one of our big value creators. And only then we can start expanding the customers. The signature was something that we realized we needed as a go-to-market strategy for landing and expanding the customers later. And unfortunately, I think we've fallen a little bit behind while we've been chasing the ARR growth and working with that assumption that digital signature is going to become a commodity. So what Scrive has built is a very deep digital signature product. And now with AI and misinformation, the amount of information, trust is important more than ever. And they understood that as well. So at some point we had to kind of figure out and decide, are we doubling down on digital signature, and are we taking the bet of trying to chase and close the gaps for digital signature to be something super strong within Contractbook? And do we build this from scratch and on our own? Or do we partner up with someone? Do we merge with someone? Do we buy a digital signature? The merger and actually becoming the company that actually gets bought in the end with Scrive felt like the right move. We've understood that the volume of customers they have, and today we have more than 13,000 customers, the volume of contracts signed every month really makes a lot of sense for Contractbook to join forces with Scrive and continue on the path of becoming the category leader and European leader within the contract management space. Now, not only contract management, but also trust and identity.
That's pretty
So this
cool.
has been an amazing journey and a realization that sometimes, your bold assumptions and bold vision honestly created a lot of traction among investors as well. Like, this was the story we were saying. This was how passionate we were that this is the case, and it resonated with many people, but it was simply wrong. And sometimes you have to realize that and compromise maybe, or adjust your thinking and vision when you see that it doesn't bring the results that you hoped for, or just the market is not moving in that direction.
Do you think you would have made a different pivot, let's say, if you would have been more open for some kind of, I don't know if you had a mentorship or something? That's one of the things we always discuss in the startup scene. when should you get on board some kind of external advisors and mentors who would help you to shape the strategy of the business?
But what I've learned over the years as well is that surrounding yourself with that type of advisors is instrumental. People that can challenge you from not necessarily within the company, because that you can be sure of, but also outside the company and bringing the fresh perspective. That plus, I also truly believe that coaching and business coaching, psychology, generally as a founder, dedicating the time in order to get to know yourself and become coachable is extremely important as well, because you can surround yourself with all the right minds that will challenge you, but if you're not willing to listen, and if you're not ready to listen, if you're not ready to be coached, it's going to be a waste of time.
Totally. And so did you have your own coaches?
For a long time, we didn't. I really believe that it was a mistake as well. I personally have not had worked with a coach or a psychologist for that sake, or the mix earlier. Only after we grew to a certain stage, we realized that that coaching would be very useful. And from there, I realized that it was actually super useful and necessary to transform to the leader that the company needed at that time, or to realize what really makes, well, not to break, honestly, we talked about burnout, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes that kind of talk can really help you look for the why, or the person asking you those questions will provoke you to think about things that you usually would not on your own. And that helps you reflect. And those reflections hopefully lead as well to some realizations down the line.
And what was your process of finding the coach? Because that's another challenging thing, right? One thing is to admit, okay, I'm ready to take a leap and to grow and to make the change. But then the question number two, where do I find those people and how do I do that?
We've tried multiple things. From I've looked online, I've tried to talk to my network, and in the end, what worked is getting a recommendation. And it might not work the first time, but in our case, it worked, and that clicked. Like, we clicked with the coach, and you will feel that almost after the first session. But I've had a couple of sessions with different people where I also given the situation a chance to kind of, okay, let's do this for 2-3 times before I kind of take a decision if this is something that I want to continue. For psychology, I've used a website as well called BetterHelp, where you're going through like a survey and you can choose the type of coach or psychologist that you would like to get. And I think I had 3 different coaches, and I've had one that I had for maybe 6, 7, 8 sessions that I think worked well with. And then I had a business coach that got recommended to us, and that worked really, really well. And he recommended to me sessions with a somatic coach. For those that don't know, somatic coach works with your body. So your body sends you signals before your brain can realize, or before your thoughts realize that you're in certain state. And so somatic coach tries to help you develop the distance between the trigger and your reaction. The more distance you have, the more time you have to actually analyze the situation and decide mindfully if you want to react this way or this way. Listening to your body as well will give you the opportunity to detect the trigger faster than you would if you would just think about it. So often it would be your body telling you signals, and kind of like the way you sit or the way you clinch, that if you catch yourself doing that, you can probably develop that distance. And that was also magical for me, and extending my awareness from just within to actually be first to your body and then towards your surroundings and how they interact with your body and then with your mind. It was also very transformational.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's very valuable to hear this, how and what's happened, what was your journey, because sometimes it can be very challenging to find the right people to work with, and it takes for trying and to talking to. So we're getting closer to the end, but I still have a couple of questions for you. One of them related to overall entrepreneurial scene, and how much are you involved in the startup ecosystem? Well, we do see this now big hype in the scene that we have, or maybe we have 2 types of founders, right? Some founders who are chasing one event after another, one pitch competition to another, and then we have someone in between, and then another type of founders who are building in silence, and then when the moment comes for raising, they struggle, let's say, with a network effect. Where do you find investors and so on? But obviously, if you're building some great thing, usually it's not a problem. But where were you in this whole chain? Were you actively involved in the ecosystem activities? Did you find it valuable, or is that even needed in your point of view?
In the very beginning, I think we were quite stubborn not to be very active in the network. And in retrospective, I think this was not necessarily the right thing to do. I think being surrounded by like-minded people can help a lot. I think being over-invested into listening to what's happening outside of your company can disturb your focus and is not going to be healthy either. So it's about finding that right balance and understanding when is the time to lift your head up and when is the time to really head down, focus on execution. I today try to balance it by I'm actually an advisor to some people myself, and that helps me stay in touch with the struggles and challenges that other people go through, and hopefully I'm also useful when they struggle and they face challenges. So it's a win-win situation. I think it's extremely important to surround yourself with the people that will make you better. The saying that whoever you surround yourself will basically make you one of them is really true. And it's surprising how mediocrity can spread like wildfire if you don't really hire the right people or surround yourself as a founder with the right people that challenge you. I think, especially for scale-ups, I think this is a big danger. Being happy with okay results and not really daring to lead or daring to challenge and defining how good looks like, what good looks like for the entire company. So that can be done externally and internally, and it's extremely important to be done, because without it, I think it becomes a bit of an echo chamber that can be self-destructive.
I still have to ask, so why were you so stubborn to get more involved into the startup ecosystem when you started building?
That's a very good question. Maybe it was the ego of believing that you know better. Maybe this was certain feeling that it's cliche to kind of be I'm building a startup. Maybe it was stubbornness that the vision matters more than somebody else's opinion. I think there was a bit of everything in it.
And what made you change and start getting a bit more involved?
I think the realization and the gratification of good things coming out of it. I think as simple as that. And realizing that you can have fun with other people as well. And I think being a foreigner in a city like Copenhagen makes you feel lonely at some point. Getting to know people just starts feeling more like home. Being able to walk down the street and high five someone because you actually know them makes you feel like it's home. And that can come definitely from networking as well.
For sure, for sure. It's a very good feeling. What you mentioned about being surrounding yourself with people, big visionaries. When I go to the conferences, and you just usually come back super in high energy, high vibration to continue building and being very inspiring to move the needle. And it seems like we get on another ride on a very good note. So we're really getting closer to the end. One more question. You're talking about entrepreneurship. What do you think is one thing that nobody talks about enough when it comes to building a company? Or something you wish was out there more when you were starting your journeys of building companies?
I'm going to say the importance of customer journey. That it's not about building a product, that it's not about figuring out a sales playbook, that it's not about making a good old machine operationally. It's about understanding that it's all connected, and that when looked from a customer perspective can be a big source of the reasons why you might struggle as a company, as an entrepreneur, as a founder. One of the big in the last 2-3 years, maybe even more, realizations as a product leader I had was that it's not about building a product in silo. It's about actually understanding from the get-go what the customer journey is going to be. Simply the difference between, so are we actually expecting the customers to come from this landing page and this self-sign up page, or are we actually expecting them to be reached out to, dragged into a demo, and then made to sign a contract to then start experiencing the product through the eyes of the onboarding and the CSM that is going to onboard it. Those are two separate customer journeys. And the experience that you build in the product, and if you're not aligned to build an experience that is going to support that customer journey, is just going to make enough friction to kill the company. Just a simple decision that we actually expect them to figure this out on their own, and we need to double down on the volume that is going to be there, and need to double down on making sure that they are able to figure this out on themselves or by themselves, is very different than actually we don't have to care about the onboarding and the self sign up, because the motion is very much, there is a salesperson that gets an inbound lead that you sell to, and then there's a CSN that is going to have a kickoff call, and they're going to educate the customer on how to use the product. You can save a lot of time not trying to build the onboarding structure if you know that your product delivers value when the customer reaches this point, and this point, and they know how to use this, and this element. And you can, with customer success, close a big gap between what your product can't do and what it should be able to do. And just that realization can be instrumental to the success of the company that you're building.
Super valuable. So Jarek, now you're up for a new chapter together with Contractbook, together with Scrive. So what's your major focus to avoid the pitfall and to merge the strengths you both have, guys, and to conquer the market?
So I'm fortunate to be in charge of the product integration, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm going to be focusing on that for the next upcoming months. I'm already learning a ton in terms of the amount of complexity that comes with merging products, but also merging teams and how subtle this topic really is. So I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing this from within and how the process is going and learning from that, because I feel like this experience is going to be invaluable in the future, and I can carry that with me for the rest of my career.
Are you planning to share about that online? How is it going in the process? Because it is kind of a very valuable and different way after merge, how the teams, so for example, how do you stick to the culture? What changes? How the people collaborate?
I did not plan to share that journey. Maybe I should.
Maybe.
But yeah, definitely I'm seeing quite a few things that could potentially be good material for letting other people not make the same mistakes.
Because I would like to even now dive deeper into the processes of merger, but I think we're going to leave it for next time when you're also more up in the process.
I can give you one teaser if you want.
Go, please.
As a founder, you spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what do I want the culture to be? And of course, you end up, the culture is something that people say when you leave the room about you and the company, and it's not what you write on the wall. But we focus a lot on building a strong culture. And I'm actually proud to say that brand identity among everyone at Contractbook is fairly strong, and they feel associated with the brand, with the people surrounding themselves with, and the product itself as well. Like, there is a clear sense of belonging and community, and you invest a lot of time into this and a lot of energy. And when you're successful, you're like, okay, we have a strong culture, and that culture actually carries us while we go through the thick and thin. But when it comes to merger, you start realizing that, okay, so wait a second. You want these people as well to get integrated and form one team as fast as possible. But what's standing in the way? They're belonging to the culture that now needs to be a bit more open-minded, because you suddenly have two different cultures. And as a founder, you realize that it will be best if people get along as fast as possible, and how important it is for the success of the company that the people go along very well. And then you start wishing almost as a founder that you maybe don't want to have that strong of a culture, which is also counterintuitive. You shouldn't optimize, or you can't have both. And I would still argue that, you should have a strong culture that can carry you through thin and thick, But it's a very interesting realization that you suddenly hope for the people to be a little bit more open-minded towards the other team and the way of working and the values that they bring to the table as well.
But is hope enough, or we need to do something actionable actually to communicate that hope and to make to open up the minds and align the different teams?
And we do a lot of work to do that.
Yeah. How do you do that actually? Do you hire someone externally, or it's more like internal facilitators?
So we actually created two work streams. One is the product integration and one is the team integration. And both of them have their goals. And basically there are work streams that meant to connect the tools, to get to, create platforms, opportunities for people to get to know each other. We don't hire anyone externally. We basically appoint someone that is responsible for making it happen and understanding what needs to happen in order for people to get to know each other and the culture and the values and be connected by the goals and understand what's going to change when things change.
Wow, that's an exciting journey for you ahead. I think I'm really looking forward to hear part 2 perhaps. How did it go and how did you overcome the challenges that are along the way? And I wish you all the best with doing that.
So much.
It seems like a very smart, strategically smart and exciting journey you're on right now with the company. I have a tradition in the podcast, the final question, to leave the audience who has been here with us today with a question to ponder about something perhaps you are trying to answer nowadays, or something about building product that people can, after listening to our conversation, can take it with them and think a bit more deeper.
Okay, I have one.
Please go ahead.
How well do you know your customer journey?
Bam! Dropping the mic. Jarek, thank you so much. Where can people follow your journey?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to connect and share deeply any of the experiences that you would like to hear more about.
I think that would be super cool if you start documenting that, right? We see a lot of different founder journeys, but I'm not sure if I've seen anyone very much talking about the challenges and opportunities when it comes to merge. Just an idea. Let's see. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Today we had with us Jarek from Contractbook, who really deep dived into overall the product journey, his founder journey and mindset, why having a coach or mentor could be a great step to elevate the growth. So thank you very much, everyone who joined us today. I'll leave the links in the show notes and see you next week.
Thank you so much. Bye.